All right, so we're ready to move on to our next speaker, and that's Clay Davis, and they'll talk to us about how could a planet killer help save the Earth. Take it away, Clay.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. And I'm coming to you from Light Pollution Central in downtown Toronto. And it seems we are living in interesting times. We got all sorts of crises. It's a time of crisis. We have existential dangers and unprecedented opportunities. We've survived the pandemic and some killer volcanoes. And just think 60 million years ago, that big asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs did not extinguish all life. Life endured, but 60 million years later, we still have some problems. And this is one that really drives me crazy: science versus nonsense. And one of the targets for this nonsense is the denial of climate change. But as concerned as I am about climate change, I'm even more worried about this: us and them, divide and conquer. Uh, if you look back at the history of the 20th century, it is pretty darn scary. And I think that we've got to learn from our history so we don't repeat it. Otto von Bismarck said, "Only a fool learns from his own mistakes. The wise man learns from the mistakes of others." And that's really about learning from history. That's one of the applications of history, learning from it. Mark Twain quipped, "History doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes." And Pete Townsend of The Who said, "I'll get on my knees and pray we don't get fooled again." Well, some of you might wonder, what is this planet killer that might help save the Earth? Well, I'm not looking at some kind of a hell bomb or a biological weapon. No, these things are destructive. My kind of planet killer is something like this. It is a telescope which is optimized for the moon and planets and other bright objects as well. These telescopes don't have to be very big in aperture, but they are optimized for the best views of these bright objects. They are ideally suited for urban outreach and sidewalk astronomy. You can tell by the lineup for this telescope. So, how could a planet killer help save the Earth? Well, a planet killer can give a new cosmic perspective. And history shows how a new perspective can change everything, just as it did with Galileo Galilei, who used a crude, early, small telescope, much like this one pictured at the right, with which he turned on Jupiter and Saturn and the moon. And he got a cosmic perspective. He published his findings here, and shortly thereafter, Johann Kepler duplicated those observations, and a scientific revolution resulted. All sorts of discoveries were made, inventions, and the Industrial Revolution came about. And there was political revolution as well. Lots and lots of marvelous discoveries, new ways of thinking, mathematics, and inventions that changed the world. And to think of the acceleration of the speed of progress. In 1903, we humans achieved the first heavier than air flight. And within one human lifetime, huh, well, we were walking on the moon. Edgar Mitchell was one of those Apollo astronauts who walked on the moon. And yes, we got there all right. He said, you develop an instant global consciousness, a people orientation, an intense dissatisfaction with the state of the world, and a compulsion to do something about it. From out there on the moon, international politics looks so petty. You want to grab a politician by the scruff of the neck and drag him 250,000 miles and say, "Look at that, you son of a bitch." Well, then we all got a cosmic perspective. And again, that changed everything. Just like it did 400 years ago with Galileo. John Dobson said, everybody's got to see this. So, along with some friends in 1968, they founded the San Francisco Sidewalk Astronomers. They'd go out in the streets of San Francisco and elsewhere and give free looks through telescopes to share the view. Starting in 1970, there were all sorts of environmental initiatives that got started because we saw ourselves, our Mother Earth, this precious orb, this blue marble, the only place we knew for sure harbored life. And we knew then we had to take care of it. In 1971, we put aside us and them and recognized our unity. And in 1972, the Soviet Union and the United States signed the SALT Accord to limit the proliferation of nuclear weapons. And diplomatic relations between the United States and the People's Republic of China were normalized for the first time in 25 years. The Cold War was starting to warm up. Relations improved. There were more environmental improvements as more bills were signed into law. And as a result of this, even 50 years later, we're drinking cleaner water, we're breathing cleaner air, and over half a century, we lived a little bit more safely. But I fear that some of these lessons of history and some of this cosmic perspective that we gained, we've forgotten. We still have existential threats, and we've got an environmental crisis that is becoming more obvious than ever. And still, we're dealing with non-science and anti-science nonsense that seems to be ramping up and just getting worse all the time. It bears repeating that history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. I feel that what we need is a cosmic perspective. History has twice demonstrated that a cosmic perspective changes everything. Seeing is believing. As John Dobson said, everybody's got to see this. And the good news is that you don't need a planet killer to give people a cosmic perspective. Aperture doesn't matter. Quality doesn't matter, said John Dobson. Any telescope will do. You can promote science literacy and STEM. That's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And better yet, STEAM. That's STEM, which is accessible, available, and affordable. STEAM. In fact, you don't need any telescope or binoculars to get a cosmic perspective. If you get out under a clear, dark, moonless, rural sky, especially in the summertime when the Milky Way is overhead, like I did when I was 5 years old and saw the summer Milky Way for the first time. I was changed, transformed. As a young child with razor sharp eyes, I gained a cosmic perspective. Astronomy's next great opportunity is coming soon. We are going back to the moon. Aboard Artemis 2, 4 astronauts will carry to the moon and orbit the moon perhaps as soon as 2025, next year. And if Chandrayaan-3, the Indian lander, confirms water on the moon, we may colonize the moon sooner than you think. And considering just how far we came in just one human lifetime, starting early in the 20th century, especially with the acceleration of the speed of change, imagine how far we could go in the next century. So, if you want to give people a cosmic perspective, if you want to promote rationality, unity, and peace, any telescope or even binoculars will do to promote scientific literacy and STEAM, the things we need to accomplish marvelous things and even save the Earth. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Clay, thank you very much. A wonderful presentation.
Thank
Food
you.
for thought, makes you think, and really, really well delivered. If you told me you were a professional broadcaster, I'd believe you. Really well done. All right. Anya, do we have any questions for Clay?
We don't have any questions, but we do have a couple of comments, both from Lewis R. His first comment is, recommend reading Planetary Adventures from Moscow to Mars by Louis Friedman. And he also recommends maybe also read Galileo's Daughter by David Sobel. A lot of what we know about him came from the letters he wrote to his daughter, Virginia.
Great suggestions. Thank you. I'll put them on my reading list. I'd
And
also
that's all we have.
suggest Neil deGrasse Tyson's Starry Messenger. Excellent book.
Going on my list.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Anything else, Anya?
That's all we have.
Good. And Clay, we look forward to a future presentation about your telescope building.
Okay, I'll be here.
I hear you attended South Bend recently, and you won 1 or 2 awards.
Yes, 2 awards. One was for mechanical innovation, and the other one was for workmanship.
Mhm.
It's the telescope you see pictured here on the screen. That's
Very
a
good.
10-inch f6 Newtonian.
Congratulations again, and we look forward to hearing about it.
Thank you very much.
All right.